Okay, so it's been argued many, many times on Facebook that the top view of a pug looks very much like a loaf of bread. I don't really see it, to be honest. I just see a fluffy, awesome little guy who likes to munch out on his treats and be super happy. Good boy, Kaiba. Good afternoon, Magic players, soy baby, and card collectors of all kinds. You got a little bit of a sneak peek of something that's coming up on the channel at some point. Ooh, hopefully this will focus. Welcome back to the channel. There we go. We're gonna be doing something a little different today. You see some packs there, some very nice packs, and over here, you will see a very interesting article. And there's going to be another very interesting article. And we're going to go over both of these. And open some packs. And have a good time. Hopefully. Assuming my father doesn't come back home. And spoil it. He doesn't watch my videos, so it doesn't really matter. But just so you know, a big part of why Easter sucked was we had a big fight. Anyways. So, Commander announced a whole banned and restricted announcement yesterday, which is really more of an unbanned announcement yesterday. And they unbanned some cards, and I'm going to look at their article, and I'm going to respond to their cards. And one of these cards made me scream with a little bit of a what the hell, how could you unban this? Because that just doesn't seem like a good idea. And another one of these cards made me cry. And we're going to go over which one is which. And yeah. So I apologize because the motion's going to go back and forth a bunch of times. I'm going to go through the article part way, and at certain points when my hand gets tired, I'm going to stop, set up, and we're going to open a pack. We got 3 Tarkir and 2 Lord of the Rings, so it should be a good video. A little bit of a long one today, but a good video. So first off, Commander is unbanning 5 cards. Gifts Ungiven, Sway of the Stars, Braids Cabal Minion, Coalition Victory, and Panoptic Mirror. I'm not going to read the part from Gavin Verhey here. I also haven't watched his video yet. So this is just going to be a cold reaction to the article. And then the articles, plural. And then I'm going to watch his video later, and if I feel the need, I'm going to do another response video. But in that one, I probably won't open packs, because that one will hopefully be much shorter. And I'll be responding directly to the video on screen. Anyways, so they decided to do an evaluation of the format, blah, 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 blah. For those using the brackets to define your decks, it should be noted that the cards being unbanned will be immediately moved to Game Changers list. So any of these cards aren't necessarily going right into the game directly. Basically, they're going to affect brackets 3, 4, and 5 only. So brackets 1 and 2, you get to still have fun with the things that you're doing. Which makes me happy because I play mostly brackets 2 and 3, so this will affect me in some games, but not a lot of games. When it came to reviewing the ban list and unbanning cards, we felt that the cards we unbanned should meet some of or all of these criteria. The cards have some fond memories associated with them. The cards can contribute to positive play patterns and enjoyable decks and or splashy moments. And cards that don't create runaway games or negative play patterns. I'm not sure whether I agree with their choices on the last part, but then again, that last part doesn't have to apply to every single card here, so that's why I can't really use that as an argument. They did a good job of making sure that you understand that. But what I really like is down here, I'm going to just skip ahead a little bit. They're going to go through each of the cards and explain why the card is unbanned. So first off, we're going to go Gifts Ungiven. It's a search your library for up to 4 cards with different names and reveal them. Target opponent chooses 2 of those cards, and those cards get put into the graveyard. And then the rest get put into your hand. So basically, you're going to choose the 2 best cards, assuming that they don't have graveyard recursion, which I'm assuming this card is basically going into a lot of graveyard recursion decks. And, they're going to choose the ones that they think will not let you win the game right away. Or, you know, if you pick somebody nice and you're screwed on lands, this is a great way to get some lands into your hand, probably. So, I mean, I'm not opposed to this one being unbanned. This one seems like it's a good card, but let's see what they say. This is a beloved card with a great history. Many of you out there have enjoyed casting this card in all sorts of formats. We're excited to return it to Commander. The previous concern had been the nature of this as a powerful tutor, the time-sensitive casting process, and the combos enabled by this card. I mean, it is an instant, so that's definitely a positive thing for the card being like super OP to a certain extent compared to a sorcery. But I don't know. I don't see it being a tutor per se. You're looking. Well, yeah, you're searching your library for 4 cards. You're not getting them off the top. Okay, I see the tutor part. Never mind. We consider this within the structure of brackets and just regular pregame conversations. If your deck is trying to infinite combo with people with this, they should often help sort out if you are playing in the right environment. On the other hand, a fair gifts ungiven is a fun and akin to a fact or fiction in the politics and interplay between players it can create. Like I say, I think this one is not so bad. I've never played against this card before, so I can't really say that it's like gonna be a how it's gonna run away with the format or whatever. I can definitely see why it's a stronger card in Commander than, let's say, Modern or something like that. But yeah, I'm gonna give this one a thumbs up. Thumbs up. All right, next one, and then we'll go for a pack probably. Because here is the one that made me cry. Sway of the Stars. Each player shuffles his or her hand, graveyard, and permanents he or she owns into his or her library. Then draws 7 cards, and each player's life total becomes 7. So now, a lot of people are going to cry over this card based on what it's doing. I'm going to cry over this card for a completely different reason. But first, let's see what they say, and then I'm going to go into why I'm upset. Ooh, this one's much shorter. A 10 mana way to reset the game akin to Worldfire, which was previously unbanned in Commander to little fanfare or play. There are some players who enjoy this effect. It is an impactful card, but not a very powerful. I don't know if I agree with that. Reducing everyone's life to 7? That's pretty powerful. There are plenty of other spells that cost 8 or more mana that have a far higher impact than Sway. Our guess is this will see little play, but the people who enjoy cards like these will now be able to play another one. So this is a really interesting card. And I mean, to a certain extent, I really like the flavor of this card and what it's doing. To another extent, it's definitely a painful card for long gameplay. But as I say, I'm not crying over this card because of what it does. A lot of people will hate this card because of the fact that it resets the game. Basically, it's like starting over. It's a lot like the one Karn that lets you reset the game. I've tried to play that in a couple decks, and people hate that card, so I actually don't run it usually anymore. Although, when I make a new artifacts deck, I might put it in, but I haven't decided yet for sure. Anyways, the reason why I cry over this card is being returned is because instead of this card being returned, I would like to see my baby returned. This is Upheaval. This is one of the first cards I ever pulled in a Dollarama Draws a Destiny. It was a really cool sorcery, I thought, where everybody just basically gets all their stuff sent back to their hand, and then they have to decide what their 7 best cards are, and those are the ones they'll keep at the end of their turn if they can't play stuff, which obviously most people won't be able to because they don't have mana. Now, when I initially found and fell in love with this card, and I actually put it into my first Commander deck ever and played with it a bunch of times before I learned that it was banned. What was I saying? Crap. What I didn't realize when I first started playing this card was that you can tap mana in response to this card being played, and basically then you can play more stuff out of your hand, and thus the person who plays this card has a significant advantage over everybody else, unless they have instants or whatever that they can play, but even still, they won't be able to play them until after the effect resolves, for the most part. Or like flash creatures, whatever, you know what I mean. So like there are things that they can do in response themselves, but for the most part, that's finally it's not freaking out of and and then I jinxed it. So yeah, anyways. This is one of my favorite spells, and when I learned that it was banned, I got really, really upset, and it sucked because it kind of ruined the fun of my zombie deck, which was just to mess with everybody's ability to put stuff on the board. Essentially, that deck involves a lot of, I'm going to sacrifice something, and then you're going to sacrifice a bunch of stuff kind of effects, which I love about zombies. But, yeah. So, like I say, unfortunate that Upheaval is banned still, and they've returned Sway of the Stars, but for those of people who like that card, I hope you have fun with it. Like I said before, all these cards are going on the Game Changers list, so it isn't the end of the world per se, but it definitely is not super great either. Alright, let's open a pack. We're just going to go left to right throughout the video, so no surprises per se. I was thinking about doing this as a new set versus old set, but I have a different set of packs that I want to do with Tarkir, and I could only afford a few packs today, so grabbed what I could. We'll just put the packs that we discard over there. Alright, we got a Monk token. Nice. Prowess. Other side? Ooh, a bird. Nice. I always like getting more birds. Can't complain about that. I'm not going to sort the pack today. I'm just going to put the 5 packs down here with the top card from each pack on top, and we'll see which pack wins. Adoring Crocodile. When this creature dies, create a 2/2 black zombie druid creature token. Pay black. Exile this card from your graveyard. Put a 1/1 counter on target creature. It's a 5/3 for 5. It's okay. Sultai Devotee. Ooh, Zombie Snake Druid, Death Touch, and you can add a color of mana once per turn by paying 1. I'm going to say that's in the running for top right now. Ice Ridge Serpent. When this creature enters, return target creature an opponent controls to its owner's hand. Yep, still is Serpent. Salt Road Pack Beast. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each creature you control. When this creature enters, draw a card. Still the Snake. Narset's Rebuke. Deals 5 damage to target creature. Add Jeskai. That's my guess. If I'm wrong, comment in the comments and let me know which one it was. But I'm pretty sure that's Jeskai. If that creature would die this turn, exile it instead. Decent. That one's decent. I still like the Snake better, though. Kintree Nurturer. Lifelink. When this creature enters, Endurer 1. Put a +1/+1 counter on it or create a white spirit creature token. Decent. Watcher of the Wayside. When this creature enters, target player mills 2 cards and you gain 2 life. Alright. Wingblade Disciple. Flying. Flurry. When you cast your second spell each turn, create a 1/1 white bird. Ooh, I do like that. I do like that. That might have just taken over the top spot. Synchronized Charge. Distribute 2 +1/+1 counters among 1 or 2 target creatures you control. Creatures you control with counters on them gain vigilance and trample until end of turn. Damn. Okay, that just took over the top spot. Ooh, we got a dragon. Jeskai Shrinekeeper. Flying Haste. Whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, you gain 1 life and draw a card. And it just keeps going to the top spot. Loxodon Battle Priest. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put a +1/+1 counter on another target creature you control. That one is not going to take the top spot, because it only does 1 creature. That being said, there is a deck that I can put this in, although it's going to be... I'm not sure I will put it in that deck, where I could apply the effect to all my board. But it would be a very costly thing to do. Well, not really. It doesn't actually cost anything to trigger this. It would just cost the ability to trigger the second ability. Anyways, still a good card, but I'm not going to. Ooh, Mistrai Sun Village. Look at the beautiful artwork on that. That's pretty. Enters tapped unless you control a mountain or a forest. You add blue. You can pay blue and tap this. The next spell... Oh, that's the sick one. This is the sick one everyone wants. Nice. That just took over the dragon spot. Sorry, dragon, you just got bumped. Fangkeeper Familiar. Snake. Flash. When this creature enters, choose 1. You gain 3 life and surveil 3. That's a decent effect. Destroy enchantment. Counter target creature spell. Okay. Still, I think that first ability is probably the best one. Gain 3 life and Surveil 3? That's pretty solid. But you do not beat the... Ooh, Tranquil Cove. I do love those lands. Any land that gives me life as it comes in, I don't care that it enters tapped, but the fact that it gives me life as it comes in, I do love that. It's always nice to have more of those. But definitely Mistrise or Moonrise? No, Mistrise Village is the top card of the day so far. First pack. Opened. First pack. Super awesome. Alright, continuing on with the article. Braid's Cabal Minion. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player sacrifices an artifact, creature, or land. I actually don't have a problem with this one. I think this is probably the one I have the least problems with. I actually like that. This card is a beloved character and a card many are nostalgic for. When played as one of your 99 cards or later in the game, it's a totally reasonable effect and appropriate impact on the game. The most frustrating Braids games are when it's put out extremely quickly and people feel locked under it. However, as little as a single removal spell can really set the entire plan back. As commanders have become more efficient with more targeted removal spells and players have gotten better at identifying commanders they don't want to play against and have pre-game conversations, so that gave us confidence to bring back Braids. A lot has changed since Braids was banned in 2009. We mostly believe people will know what they're signing up for in a game with Braids as a commander, and as a card at 99, it's reasonable and acceptable. I 100% agree with this one. This one, I give a thumbs up. For the record, I also give a thumbs up to the last one. It just makes me sad. But it was an okay spell to bring back. This is the one I have the problem with. This, I think, the committee, or whoever did this, I think this was a bad choice. Basically, any 5-color deck is definitely going to be tossing this into their deck now, if they are bracket 3 or 5, 3 or higher already. There's no doubt that they're going to automatically include this. You win the game if you control a land of each basic land type and a creature of each color. Now, it doesn't say that you have to have one color for one creature there, so you could have one creature that has all 5 colors in theory. At least that's the way I understand this card. So you could basically win with 6 cards in play when you put this out, if nobody counters it. And this one's got the longest blurb. It clearly was a thing, so let's go through this. This card engendered a great deal of discussion. A lot of it boils down to how impactful and how much of an auto-include it is. In a deck with 5-color commander, it essentially reads, you win the game if you control your commander. Exactly, that's what I thought. That is not the most satisfying end to a game, and it does not begin to become an auto-include for many decks. Is that an appropriate card to exist? However, it can easily be interacted with. A single removal spell in response to your 5-color commander means you spend 8 mana to do nothing. You also need to untap with your commander and 8 mana, and there are many expensive spells that will do something akin to ending the game in a 5-color deck, if you resolve them. Additionally, for those engaging with commander brackets, it is within the time frame of where we expect an I win combo to fall. I'm not going to say those are not necessarily valid points, but I still fall on the other side of the discussion that, you know what? In a 5-color deck, basically your commander and 5 lands, you win the game. Like, yeah, okay, there are removal spells, and yeah, it costs 8, but generally people who are playing 5 mana commanders are also running a ton of, like, sorry, ramp and other things. So the idea that they won't necessarily have that mana to pay to counter a counter or whatever seems iffy to me, let's say. That said, it's definitely not a card that you're going to pull out in like the first 3 or 4 turns, I don't think. I could be wrong about that. Maybe there'll be a way that somebody finds a way to pull it off. But for me, I'm looking at, yeah, it's probably like a turn 7, turn 8, maybe a turn 6 combo with your commander, depending on if your commander literally only costs like $5, and if you've ramped enough to get it out. But I'm gonna go with a no. I'm thumbs down in that one. I don't think we should get Coalition Victory back. I think that should have stayed on the ban list. Even as a game changer, I know it's not going to affect brackets 1 and 2, but still, it's... We have enough auto win game condition cards. I don't think we need another one. And it's not like a card that, like, affects the board state and wins. It's like my 20-toed Toad. I love the 20-toed Toad, but that's a really OP card, to be perfectly honest, in the right deck. And the Bumbleflower deck is definitely the right deck. So, anyways, let's move on to the final card, and then we'll open another pack. The Panoptic Mirror. This one is interesting. Pay X, tap it. You remove an instant or sorcery card with converted mana cost X from your hand, in your hand from the game. At the beginning of upkeep, you may copy an imprinted instant or sorcery card and play the copy without paying its mana cost. So essentially, I have a card very similar to this in my Miracle Lord of the Bones deck, which is, I can't remember the exact name of it. I should have got it out before I started this video. Damn. It's some sort of rod. And basically when you tap the rod, you get to trigger the one instant card that you actually imprinted it on it. So it's a much less powerful version of this. The fact that this lets you go multiple times, you can imprint like a whole bunch of sorceries onto this, is pretty badass. That definitely makes it an OP card. I'm just going to find that card now because it's going to drive me nuts if I don't. Darn, wrong box. Ah! Sorry. Brief timeout. Look at the puggies over there. I'm gonna keep looking for this card, 'cause it'll drive me nuts someday. Trying to search a deck one-handed is hard. Especially this deck, because this deck is so weirdly colored. With the green, white, and black, a lot of things look similar to artifacts to the eye on the first glance. I will reward you with a pack soon. Come on, where are you? You guys are all shouting in the comments what card I mean before I can find it, I'm sure. Because you guys are all very smart at this. And I am still fairly new to it. Where are you, card? Is that it? No, that's the pull from eternity that I actually use on that card. I haven't actually profiled that deck yet for you guys, but it's a fun one. I basically call it my recycling deck. Okay, this is getting really annoying. Sorry, we're going to put you up here. I need to search two-handed, or it's going to drive me insane. It's hurting my arm, too. It's going to be the first, like, 5 cards. Yep, Isochron Scepter. That's the one I'm looking at. So basically, Panoptic Mirror, I think, is a lot like an Isochron Scepter. In that... Actually, I should just keep that out so I can refer to it some more. And I want to shuffle this deck afterwards. Anyways, so Isochron Scepter says imprint, just like that one. And when it enters the battlefield, you exile an instant card with converted mana cost 2 or less from your hand, and then you can pay 2, tap this thing, and copy the ability of the card. So that's the one that I run in this deck. This over here is just an insanely much more OP version of that card, which is why I wanted to reference to it. So yeah, basically, I think this one is kind of another iffy one, but it could be a lot of fun. It's definitely an easy one to target with removal and what have you, per se. And it costs 5 to put into play in the first place, so yeah. We'll see what they say, though. I'm interested in what they say. I personally have been a Panoptic Mirror enjoyer since it was originally printed back in Darksteel. The promise of using a cool spell turn after turn is so fun. That's still true today. A value mirror is a great blast. There are 2 problems with it. The first is imprinting an extra turn spell. The game is over immediately. The second is imprinting something extremely repetitive, such as a board sweeper, so the game cannot move forward. Both of those I did not consider, and both of those would definitely suck. The latter is something to be a lot less worried about in 2025. There are so many answers to artifacts and decks that even if you're under a board lock, you can get out of it. I suppose that's true. The first one is well addressed by bracketed play through the restrictions on combos and a lower overall density of extra turn effects. That is also true, actually. If everybody actually follows the bracket system, this shouldn't be an issue. And regardless of the bracket system, many tables have a good idea of whether they enjoy infinite combos appearing in their games, and if that's something they want players to do in their decks. Finally, it does take a full turn and a large amount of mana investment, and people have several windows to respond to it in. They can kill it before you untap, in response to the ability, or after the ability resolves and your opponent is down a card. Okay, that's the end of that blurb. I thought that blurb actually continued a lot more, but apparently not. This is the end of the article. Oh, I'm not even going to... I didn't even realize there was another section there. Let's actually continue that after we open another pack. Let's reward you guys for putting up with me searching there with a Lord of the Rings set booster. I think that's well deserved. So let's do that. Cat has moved down to the end of the bed. He's very tired today. As I say, it's been a rough few days. There's a good chance we're going to be moving soon. I don't know where we're going to move to because while I can afford to buy a few packs here or there, what I can't afford is an actual rent yet. Beyond what I'm paying currently to my dad, which isn't very much. This is probably one of my favorite Lord of the Rings art cards. That is beautiful. I am definitely stoked to have pulled that. Would be nice if it was signed, but I will take it. We got the Human Soldier, and that's it. Alright, Melindor, Swift Savior. Always a fun one to pull. I do like this one because the fact that it has flying means that it has a nice set of invasion attached to it. And whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you get to flicker something, essentially. Or blink, or however you want to call it. Which is pretty cool. So top card so far. Sauron's Ransom. Never pulled one of these yet. Choose an opponent. They look at the top 4 cards of their library. Of your library, sorry. And separate them into a face-down pile and a face-up pile. Put one pile in your hand and the other pile in your graveyard. And then the ring tempts you. For 3, that's insane, especially because it's an instant. Sorry, bird. You went down. Ooh, Gandalf the Grey in the other art. Oh, sorry, give me a second. I want to look at this very carefully. It is. He's falling into the chasm. That's one of my favorite scenes from the movie series. This is awesome. I love this legendary creature anyways. It's a great pull. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, you get to choose one that hasn't been chosen yet. You can untap or tap target permanent. He deals 3 damage to each opponent. You can copy instant or sorcery spell you control, and you can choose new targets for the copy. Or you get to put this thing back on top of your library, and then the next turn you can play it back out again and restart the cycle. Insanely fun. I might make a commander deck with him as the commander just for shits and giggles at some point. Because I now have an extra one. I am super stoked. Alright, let's go. Rosie Cotton! Full art! Oh man! We are hitting some solid pulls. Look at that. That's beautiful. That is gorgeous. When she enters the battlefield, create a food token. Whenever you create a token, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control other than her. You guys are going to argue with me till we're blue in the face on this, but I'm sorry, Rosie's going to the bottom. I like Gandalf better. Quick Beam, Upstarts, Ent. Whenever it or another tree folk enters the battlefield and you control, up to 2 target creatures get +2/+2 and trample until end of turn. Solid legendary, but I do not have a lot of... Well, I do have a decent amount of tree folk, but they're scattered amongst all my decks. They're not really all in one deck. Maybe one day I will build a tree folk deck, but for now, no. Land Roval, Horizon Witness, another legendary, flying. Whenever 2 or more creatures you control attack a player, target attacking creature you control without flying gains flying until end of turn. Very solid card, especially if you can apply that fact multiple times, which there are certain decks I can do that in. So, nice, but no. Oh, it sucks when you pull the same card twice in one pack. Boo, Wizards, boo! Quarrel's End, although it is a really nice card to pull a double of. I won't say it wasn't. As an initial cost to cast this spell, discard a card, draw 2 cards, and create a 1/1 white human soldier creature token. For 3, not bad. If it was an instant, it would be better, but I'll take it. Size limit. Okay, it's going to make my video go to multiple videos now. Nasty End is an okay one. You have to sacrifice a creature as part of it, which is okay in the right deck. If it's a legendary creature, you get to draw 3 cards instead of 2, which is nice as a bonus. Sirith, Ungol Patrol, sacrifice another creature token. Oh, nope, just sacrifice another creature. Sorry, draw a card, then create a food. He is a fun one. I do like him. And he isn't in several of my decks. Gandalf is still the top card, though. And again, you guys can argue with me all you want. Rosie Cotton is not going to the top over Gandalf. Target creature gets +1/+2 and gains Death Touch until end of turn. Create a food token. Solid card for 1. Sorry, Gandalf. Nope. Gandalf, you're staying on top. And a forest. Gandalf is staying on top. I'm sorry, guys. You can yell at me. I'll put Rosie. You know what? I'll put Rosie right there on the second from the top, just so that we can say that it's like a tie. But we all know, in my heart, it's Gandalf. All right, let's continue this. I don't want to be here for 4 hours. These cards have not been legal in Commander for a long time, originally between 2005 and 2009. Damn. Law has changed in Magic for Commander since? True. We are not opposed to banning them again at some point in the future if they are still problematic. Yep. I like this. I really like the fact that they're very open and honest about how they're doing things. I also am very for not banning cards. I don't like things being banned because it sucks. I know this is going to sound weird, but I always try to look at things from the perspective of what if I were in that spot. So what if I were the playing card that got banned because I'm too OP? It's not my fault that I was created this way. I'm meant to be played in this game. I was made to be an awesome piece of this game, but they decide I'm too awesome a piece of this game, so therefore I'm never allowed to be played in this game. So now I just sit on a shelf and look pretty, and I'm never part of any of the fun. That sucks. That is a really sucky perspective. But that's the way I look at it when you ban a card. So, like I say, although there's justifications for banning cards, don't get me wrong. And I'm not going to ever win an argument for not banning cards. But, in my personal humble opinion, I prefer unbanning to banning. So, with the exception of the ones that I thumbs down, I'm good with these cards coming out. Alright. Dockside Extortionist, Jeweled Lotus, and Mana Crypt. We should get back to this. We would be plugging our ears if we did not acknowledge the elephants in the room when it comes to this series of Unbans, the September bans, blah 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 blah. Many players out there were probably immediately scrolled down the long article as quickly as they could to discover the fates of these cards. We did talk about these cards and are not unbanning them at this time. Good for you. Positive. As much as I feel bad for the people who lost the cards and their value, this is me personally talking, not the article. As much as I feel bad for these people who lost value from these cards being banned and blah, 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 and all the crap that came from those bans, to undo it now would be just really, really wrong, and it would make everything that happened feel futile. Anyways, opinions from the Commander format panel varied. Some believe Commander is more fun without them, others would like more time to see how the Commander bracket system is adopted before doing anything here. Others felt it's too soon to do anything with these cards. There were a few people who were open to doing something with the Jeweled Lotus now, but that was not the majority opinion. The overwhelming majority of the panel did not want to do anything with any of these cards at this time. I will be transparent and say that I believe if any of these cards are ever to return, the most likely one is Jeweled Lotus due to its one-shot nature, iconic feel, and ability to help support higher mana value commanders. I want to be clear, this is not saying me that it will ever happen again, but that was the one among the panel with the most traction. Oop, that skipped a bunch, sorry. I know many of you love these cards. Many of you are also glad no longer to have to play against these cards. There's always that kind of push and pull with the powerful and potential ban-worthy cards in Commander. I appreciate that there are many in both camps, and that no matter what happens with these cards, somebody will feel like they didn't get the result they wanted. However, we wanted to talk about the cards here honestly, and what was said eternally and transparently. These cards will be something I'm sure we will talk about next year, but for this year, the book is closed on these cards. Bravo. Bravo. In fact, I'm applauding. You just can't see it very well. Future bans, blah, blah, blah. A lot has happened since September. It's been charged. How much longer does this article go? I want to go to the next one. I'm not sure if this is important. We are committing to no further changes to the ban list for the rest of this year. Nice. I do like that part. Highlighted in bold. The only exception will be what I'm calling the Nadu contingency. Okay, that's fair. Which is if a new or unbanned card begins to become generally reviled and people just want it gone as soon as possible, we can break that seal and act earlier. However, I'm hoping we do not need to do this, as it would need to be a fairly extreme circumstance. As has often been stressed to me, Commander moves slowly. It's fine to take our time with everything and let everything settle. Stability is a core tenet of Commander's philosophy. Recently, it hasn't always felt that way. Let's get back to stability again. If you're interested in a review of the cards on the ban list, we've included a summary below. I am super supportive of this. Overall, I'm very, very, very supportive of this. Bravo to you guys. And also, shame on anybody who's going to shit on them for doing this. I think, you're entitled to your opinion if you're upset about the cards, don't get me wrong. I'm upset about Coalition victory, don't get me wrong. But overall, they're doing an amazing job. They took over in an extremely hostile time period of Commander, and I think they've steered the ship into a very positive direction. I'm pretty proud of this new committee and what they're doing. I was proud of the old committee too. And I mean, I know I made a pretty angry video when the first series of the bans last September came out, and I did make another video apologizing for that afterwards and going over why I felt what I did, although I didn't necessarily provoke anybody, I didn't think, but if I did, I felt really wrong about it, and I don't encourage that kind of behavior. So I am really excited that things are moving in a positive direction. My computer is going to take a bit to try and load to the next article, unfortunately, because it is an older laptop. So while I am trying to set that up, let's move over here and let's do another Tarkir. I will just keep playing with the mouse while I try to get the laptop to stop being frozen. Hopefully we can get back to that second article today. Oh, there we go. That should do it. Alright, let's open Tarkir. Can we pull something huge? So far we pulled a Mysterized Village, which is an amazing land. We've also pulled a Gandalf, and we pulled several great things from Lord of the Rings. I mean, Lord of the Rings is the best set, in my opinion, by far. In terms of Universes Beyond. In terms of inset, I couldn't actually decide what's best because I haven't played the game long enough. That wouldn't be fair. Another Spirit in Spirit, always great to have because I'm working on that Spirit deck, as we all know. Hopefully finishing that in the next week or two. I keep getting sidetracked. I did finish my Cats deck recently, which I will be profiling for you guys on Mother's Day. And I'll explain why later when I do that video. But let's get on with this. Champion of Doosan, Trample. Pay 1 and a green to exile this card, put a +1/+1 counter and a trample counter on target creature. Nice. I like that one. Ringing Strike Master. Enchant. Creature, when the aura enters, tap enchanted creature. Enchanted creature doesn't untap during its controller's untap step. You have to pay 5 to untap the creature. Damn. So it's not quite one of those ones that completely locks down the card unless the person finds another way to untap it. But still, I like that because actually I think that's better. That means they have to actually pay a shite load of mana if they want to untap their creature or find that effect, which could slow them down. Poise Practitioner. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature, and then you scry one. Decent. That's going to the top. So far, that's the top dog. Fire Rim Form. Flash enchant creature. When this aura enters, enchanted creature gains first strike until end of turn, and it gets +2/+0. I mean, that's a great spell for hitting one person one time, but it's not like afterwards it's going to leave you kind of vulnerable, so I'm not going to put that up. Alicia's Legacy. Target creature control gains death touch and indestructible until end of turn. That is always one of my favorite things to do with an instant in black. But unfortunately, I think the Poise Practitioner is still better. Aggressive Negotiations. Target opponent reveals their hand, choose a non-land card from it, and exile that card. Put a +1/+1 counter on up to one target creature you control. Decent. Decent. I like the fact that it reveals their hand to the entire table, not just to you. So if you pick the person who's in the lead, it definitely endears the rest of the table to you. I'm going to put that... no, the monk is still better. Why are you... Still a little bit frozen over on the other side. Jadecast Sentinel. Reach, pay 2, tap, put target card from a graveyard on the bottom of its owner's library. I love this card. I have another version of this card. I can't remember what it's called. It costs 6 to play, but it's the same idea, same effect. It's also got a bit more of a buffed, beefy butt to it. I think it's like a 3/6. It's like a cogwork or something like that, I think it's called. Anyways, this is still great, though. And honestly, I think that might go over top. Nope. You know what? The monk is still better. That monk is really, really good. Vigilance. Menace. This creature enters with 2 +1/+1 counters on it if you cast 2 or more spells this turn. Sorry, you're still going to the bottom. Teeming Dragonstorm. Really great enchantment if you're actually playing dragons. Because you get to create a bunch of soldiers, and whenever you play a dragon, you get to put it back in your hand. Still, though, monk is better. Cure Goalkeeper. Awesome. I love to have more copies of this card. Flying. Whenever one or more creatures you control leave your graveyard during your turn, you get to create a treasure token. The only thing that sucks about this card is that it's 3 colored, so it's not very versatile in terms of what decks you can use it in, but still, I really like this card. Plus, you get to pay 2 and, Sultai. Yes, I remembered. Exile this card from your graveyard, put 2 +1/+1 counters and a flying counter on a creature you control. So, I mean, insane value. Sorry, Practitioner, I think you just lost to a dragon. Sunset Strike Master. Add red, pay 2 in a red, tap this, sacrifice this creature, it deals 6 damage to target creature with flying. Meh. Ooh, Crater Hoof Behemoth! Bom, 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 bom! Sound effects kill me. 5/5 with haste. Whenever this creature enters, creatures you control gain trample and get +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the number of creatures you control. This card is awesome. And that card just took over top spot for sure. Ooh, another Poise Practitioner. Nice, I got 2 of them. You know what? Because it got 2 of them, I'm gonna put that one over top of the dragon, but it's still underneath the Practitioner. And a Bloodfell Caves, another life-gaining land that comes in tapped. Beautifully, beautifully done. All right. Pack 3, you were very kind to us. Craterhoof Behemoth. It's going to be tough to pick from these 5 packs which one is the best one. I think you guys are going to have to vote in the comments. I might have to even do a poll. Alright, we got the video working again. So let's go back over here and continue with the next article. Alright, this is Gavin Verhey on behalf of... Sorry, guy, I get your name wrong if I do. Talking too fast, sometimes I mispronounce things. This is Gavin Verhey on behalf of the Commander format panel, and if you do not know what that is, blah 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 blah, I'm just going to skip through this. The bracket system in review. Commander Brackets Beta is something entirely new. We revealed it and eagerly awaited all your feedback with the initial test on at MagicCon Chicago. If you listen very carefully, you'll hear Kaiba in the background making some water. Yummy, yummy water. Fun ASMR moment. Okay, back to it. Overall, I would like to say the feedback has been far more positive than negative, which is great. People are excited to have something to try for Commander matchmaking. And most of all, it's provided additional terminology to talk about the games they want to play, all the while reminding folks of the importance of pre-game conversations. Watching it in action at Chicago was wonderful, and I had multiple players tell me the brackets led to some of the most evenly matched Commander games they've played at a MagicCon yet. That is fantastic. I really am a fan of the bracket system. Let's give you a thumbs up for that one. But those are just my anecdotes. Let's get some real actual data. In an official survey done for MagicCon Chicago, 87% of the people who tried the bracket system said it was helpful in their games. That's incredible. That's very incredible. The online player pool is another place we looked at for data. I talked with the Magic Online team over at Daybreak Games, and about half of all Commander games on MTGO are using the bracket system. They also let me know they're actively working on implementing this system programmatically wherever possible. It's unofficial, but I also talked with Amy, who runs Spellbot, which pairs Commander games across many major Discord servers. About 54% of all games on those servers use Commander brackets to pair people. The system adoption is high for something only 2 months old, which is great to see. Now, I also don't want to take these early wins as a sign that the system is perfect. One of the easiest ways to fail in the long term is to succeed early and think you can stop improving. We've heard a ton of feedback on the system. While plenty of it is positive, there is also some room for clarity, expansion, and refinement. How many brackets should there be? Should the exhibition of brackets exist? Is it upgraded? Blah, 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 blah. Holy crap, this is going to go on for a while. You guys can read this. What exactly is the mass land instruction? What does a few tutors mean? Should there be a bracket 3.5, 2.5, or something between the existing brackets? We talked through a range of changes in this vein to move some verbiage and goalposts around. However, as we looked into it more, we decided against changing the tiny details of the system this early. Tons of content creators have made pieces explaining the system. People are just starting to learn how it works and what it is. If we go down this path every 2 months, rearrange all the pieces of the system that's overall been quite successful thus far, it's going to erode people's ability to learn the system properly. That I 100% agree with. That is a great point right here. This one is fantastic. Definitely true. People will not learn something if you keep constantly changing how it works. I'm not going to go through the example. I think that's fantastic. Now that we've given people time to begin to understand Bracket 1 and build decks with it in mind, we're seeing it grow, which is great. I think Bracket 1 should grow. I eventually want to build a Bracket 1 Elephants deck. Because elephants are my favorite animal, and I just think it would be a lot of fun. I don't really think it'll work super well, but I think it'll be a lot of fun. To be clear, Commander brackets are not receiving any changes at this time. The system is still in the beta stage. However, that does not mean we're not making any changes to pieces. When we rolled out this system, we tried to keep the game changers list small. We were worried about the number of cards people would track, blah, 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 blah. While a precaution, I'm glad we took it. We may have overcorrected a bit. The overwhelming response and most common point of feedback was that people could do with a lot more game changers. Having this set list and shared language has been helpful. This is great, so we're going to have more game changers to talk about today. Alright, let's do this intended play section, and then we're going to open another pack. When we first rolled out the bracket system, one mistake I believe we made was not to emphasize how important the intent you have for your deck is when selecting its bracket. The Game Changers list and the bracket guidelines got most of the emphasis, and intent sat on the sidelines. However, in terms of importance, this should be flipped. Intent is the most important part of the bracket system. I agree 100%. While there are guidelines to keep in mind when deck building, no game changers in exhibition or core, no mass land denial through upgraded, etc. The bracket system is emphatically not just put your deck into calculator and get assigned a rank and be ready to play. I deeply appreciate the tools and websites Maxfield and Arcadeck have put together to give you an overall estimate, and they've done some fantastic iteration to help you emphasize intent as well, but I want to stress that any estimate is just an estimate. It's on you to use what you know to label your deck correctly, which seems fair. I mean, we're all Magic players. I think it's harder for newer players to do this, but overall, I think that this is something that we should be able to do as players. And a newer player should be able to lean on the community and get help for that. And I think the community is really good at that kind of thing. You can always bracket decks up, meaning you can... Oh, am I near the end of this? No. Okay, there's the game changing. You can always bracket decks up, meaning you can note that your deck meets the description of a core bracket deck, but plays like an upgraded bracket deck. So you should bracket it at bracket 3, which is something I'm actually doing with a bunch of my decks. I think I play more bracket 3 than 2 to be perfectly fair, but I just don't like game changers, so some of my decks I've actually downgraded a bit just to make sure that I could play in bracket 2 with them. Where was I? It's talking about Goblin's deck. I'm going to skip that part. Those are far more important. Okay. Actually, no, I'm going to read that part. If you make a fully tricked out Goblin deck that uses no game changers, it's probably not a core deck, despite technically meeting the deck building rules. And that's where the descriptions shared in the first article, which you can find here, really come into play and why they are vital. Those are far more important than just looking down the checklist and making sure your deck doesn't violate any of these rules. Exactly. I know a lot of people who took that the wrong way when this first came out and were like, hey, Slivers, that's a bracket 2 deck. No. Slivers is not bracket 2. It is imperfect. That'd be like me saying Eldrazi is bracket 2. It's not. Even if I have an Eldrazi precon and I have no intentions of upgrading or changing that card deck, I'm still going to play that at bracket 3, not bracket 2. That's not fair to people in bracket 2. It is imperfect because it requires people to gauge their own decks. Yes, absolutely. There will always be some of that, but using the descriptions to guide you should point you toward the bracket your deck sits in. I think that's enough. I think we get it. Let's move on to the Game Changers thing. But first, pack number 4. Alright, last Lord of the Rings set booster. Let's see if we can pull some more fire. While I'm opening this, I just want to give a huge shout out to Paradox TCG. They rock over at Paradox TCG. That's where I got these packs today. And I am very, very excited to keep shouting them out as they are an awesome LGS. If you need stuff, I definitely would look towards Jason and Jaguar. They are great guys. And if you want to look into some Magic stuff, one of their employees named Jacob is fantastic with all this Magic stuff. So check them out. Go over to their website. Great guys. Alright. Guess Grimoire. Never pulled one of these before. Ooh, it's a Guess card. Nice. Whenever an opponent discards a card from his or her hand, you may... Ooh! Oh, I like that. That's going to go well in my Death Touch discard deck. Nice. That might be the card of the day. Put one target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard on top of your library and amass 2 orcs. I do like that sorcery. It is a great one. I'm definitely going to add that into a deck, but it is not beating the Gareths. Pippin, Guard of the Citadel, that might. Vigilance, Ward 1. Another target creature you control gains protection from the card type of your choice until end of turn. Ooh. You know what? I do love me some hobbits, but the Grimoire, I think, might be better. Lash of the Balrog, we've seen that many times. I do love the full art, but I think I've pulled like 4 of these now. Gwir, the Windlord? Gawir, sorry. This spell costs 2 less to cast as long as you've drawn 2 or more cards this turn. It has flying and vigilance, and all your birds get vigilance. It's a great card for my birds deck. Not super great in any of the other decks I play. Stern Scolding, counter target creature spell with power or toughness 2 or less. That's going to the back. You cannot pass. Destroy target creature that blocked or was blocked by a legendary creature this turn. It's a decent instant for sure, but it only applies in legendary decks or decks that have a lot of legendary creatures. Banish from Idris. This spell costs 2 less to cast if it targets a tap creature. Exile the creature. Great way to get rid of a problem. Assuming that problem doesn't have Hexproof or Shroud. Bewitching Leechcraft, enchant creature. When it enters, tap enchanted creature. Enchanted creature has, if this creature would untap during your untap step, remove a +1/+1 counter from it, or you do not untap it. That kind of sucks for people who don't play +1/+1 counters. Morgul Knife Wound, enchant creature, gets -3/-0, and has, at the beginning of your upkeep, exile this creature unless you pay 2 life. Solid for dealing problems. This pack seems to be dealing with a lot of problems. Hobbit Sting. I'm going to sneeze 1 second. Sorry, Kaiba. Sorry, Kaiba. Oh my goodness. 5 in a row. That might be a record. Hobbit Sting. Deals X damage to target creature, where X is the number of creatures you control plus the number of foods you control. Damn. Oh. Still the Grimoire. I think the Grimoire wins this one. Pippin's Bravery. Decent. You get +4/+4 if you can sacrifice a food. Otherwise, you only get +2/+2. And a nice Lord of the Rings land. Definitely not as good as the first Lord of the Rings pack, but okay. You let me know whether you would put Pippin or the Grimoire up. I think I'm going to keep the Grimoire up just because it's a special guest card. So it probably has a little bit extra value for pulling it, and yet it's also playable, which gives it some bonus points. On to the rest of this article, and then the last pack, and we'll get you guys out of here. Anybody who actually stuck around and watched this whole thing, I really appreciate you. Alright, Game Changers list. In evaluating the Game Changers list and reading all your feedback, we not only wanted to add cards, but also ensure initial list was pulling its weight. In reading the community feedback, 2 cards generally stood out as out of place to people, and we're taking them off the list today. Trouble in Pairs is one of them. Certainly emerged as a standout card since it was released a year ago. While it can draw a lot of cards on its par with some cards that are not on the list, the general feeling is that it just slightly under the bar for the Game Changers list, and probably jumped the starting line a little on this one. I don't know how I feel about that. If an opponent would begin an extra turn, this player skips that turn instead. Whenever an opponent attacks you with 2 or more creatures, draws their second card each turn, or casts their second spell each turn, you draw a card. You know what? I'm not opposed to that. The second ability is what's going to definitely be more valuable. But I do like the fact that the first ability limits people from extra turns, which is one of the problems in Commander, so you get a thumbs up for going back out. Trinisphere, what do you do? Oh, don't glitch on me now, laptop. Come on, laptop. Laptop, be slow! Oh, and then it skipped. Okay. As long as Trinisphere is untapped, each spell that would cost less than 3 mana to cast costs 3 mana to cast. What? Oh. Oh, that sucks. I don't like that. This card is not the most fun card to play against. No kidding. No denying that. However, it tends to be strongest at the highest power levels, like Optimized Bracket 4 and Bracket 5. There are many cards on the level of unfun stacks pieces, like Sphere of Resistance, Rule of Law, and Nether Void, that aren't on the Game Changers list. And generally, if your deck is trying to lock other players out in a stack style, that's a play pattern that doesn't match the intent of Bracket 2, and you should bracket up. If you want to play a single fair Trinisphere, it may be a little frustrating, but ultimately reasonable. I don't know. I don't know about that. I'm going to thumbs down that one. I think that one's going to kind of ruin a lot of Bracket 2 decks. Now that said, again, it comes down to intent. Will people be good at the intent? I don't know, but let's hope so. Actually, you know what? I'm going to do a thumbs mid. We're going to do a thumbs mid, not a thumbs down. I bring that thumbs down back up to mid. We'll give it a shot. They're willing to give it a shot. I'm willing to give it a shot. I don't like it, though. That's what I'm going to put on the record now. I don't like that card. Holy crap. That is a lot of additions. I don't know if I'm going to go through all of those right away. Let's just... Oh, man. That's a lot. All right. Let's go through this list as quickly as we can. Let's see if any of them... First off, I'm just going to read the names and see if any of them jump out at me as cards that I play. Orcish Bowmasters I have, but I haven't put it into a deck yet. I think I have a Notion Thief in my Rogues deck. That sucks. I do have a Seedborn Muse in my... Damn it, that's the deck I just pulled the other Game Changer card out of. Screw it, I'm just going to upgrade that deck to a 3. Natural Order, Food Chain, Ore Shards, Field of Death. I don't know the rest of those very well, other than, I think Mirror Shores Workshop I might, but let's go through this really quick. Alright, Teferi's Protection is an obvious one. Until your next turn, total life total can't change, gain protection from everything, all permanents you control phase out. I like that one. Solid card, it's definitely a game changer. Good job putting it on the list. Humility. Each creature loses all abilities and is a 1/1 creature. Damn! Okay, that kind of sucks, because if they're going to put that on the list, chances are we're going to start putting other cards on the list that do similar things. And one of my favorite cards that recently came out in Bloomborough, I think it came out in Bloomborough for the first time, was the Kudo Bear deck card. So I'm not super happy about seeing that one. I'm going to mid that, because if we're going to start putting cards like that on the list, we're going to definitely get Kudo on there eventually. Alright, these three all got grouped together. While punishing additional card draw is a reasonable thing to have in a game of Commander, these are particularly aggravating to encounter. At best, these are frustrating to play against. At worst, they combo with wheels to do some nefarious things. I do not have a Narset. I do have the Notion Thief, but it's in a deck that I would consider a 3 already anyways, so I'm not too worried about that. Orcish Bowmasters, I don't know what I'm putting that into yet, but I'll make sure it's a 3 when I put something in. So, solid all around. I will give thumbs up for all 3 of those. Definitely good calls. Damn laptop. Why are you so slow? And then you're going to skip way too far. Yep. Nope, it didn't actually. That was okay. Alright, Intuition. Search your library for any 3 cards, reveal them to target opponent. He or she chooses one, put that card in your hand, put the rest into your graveyard. Okay, so it's basically like the other card that they've already said they were putting on here. The one that lets you search your library for 4 cards. Same idea, I get it. Sure. It's a great tutor. They say it's a very strong tutor, giving you 1 card and dumping 2 into your graveyard. Well, it's not always the exact card you want out of the 3. With redundancy, you usually get something strong. And it also stocks your graveyard in the process. Combine that with the fact that it can be a 1-card combo in the right deck, and that brings it up to a game changer status. Agreed. Agreed. Consecrated Sphinx. What is this one? I don't remember the Sphinxes. And part 3 just started, apparently. I'm going to definitely have to put this all together as one video at some point. I'm really hoping that I'll have enough memory space. That's what I'm scared of. Come on. Laptop, why are you being so difficult? Let's look at the puck. The puck is much more beautiful to look at than this stupid laptop. While it does its thing. I really didn't want to make this video over an hour. Did not expect it to take this long. But I also didn't realize until about the time I was going to start loading this video up to do that there was a second article I had to go through. Okay, Consecrated Sphinx. Flying. Whenever an opponent draws a card, you may draw 2 cards. Yeah, okay, that's definitely... Yeah. I'm not even going to read what they're saying. I'm just going to skip ahead to Necropotence. Skip your draw step. Whenever you discard a card, exile that card from your graveyard, pay 1 life, exile the top card of your library face down, put that card into your hand at the beginning of your end step. Huh. Yeah. Deflecting Swat. I'm not really sure why... Okay, what did they say? Though it does cost to cast once down, the ability to turn as much of your 40-point life total into cards as you want is extremely powerful. This has been one of the most requested additions, and we're happy to add it to the list. I personally haven't played against this card, so I don't have the experience to know whether this is really as worthy of the Game Changers list as they're calling it. I'm going to admit it. Deflecting Swat. If you control a commander, you may cast a spell without paying its mana cost. You may choose new targets for target spell or ability. Really? Strong free counter magic made the list previously, and this often does the job of free counter magic more and more. It's deserving of spot on the list. I don't know. I'm going to admit it. The fact that you have to have your commander out, while that's not like super difficult to achieve, is still, decent enough to be annoying. Okay. Gamble, Crop Rotation, and Worldly Tutor. Search your library for a card, put that card into your hand, discard a card at random. That one's, yeah. Well, I like Gamble. I don't think that Gamble is that bad. Cost this spell, sacrifice a land, search your library for a land card, put that card onto the battlefield, then shuffle. That sucks. That Crop Rotation went in. I understand why. Worldly Tutor, search your library for a creature card, reveal it, shuffle, put it on top. All these are going because they're all powerful tutors, I'm sure. The lower brackets do carry the restriction of few tutors already. However, 1-mana tutors that can search up a wide array of cards are some of the most efficient out there. And like Imperial Seal, Mystical Tutor, and others, these are in line with that. We may be revising the notes around tutoring on brackets in the future, but for the time being, we wanted to get these 3 large swings onto the list. I'm going to say no to Gamble. The other 2, yes. Gamble, I think, is worth the risk. No, you know what? We're going to say yes to all 3. Screw it. If Gamble costs more, then it would be worth reconsideration, but Gamble doesn't cost that much. All of them being only 1 cost, that's pretty bad. Alright, Seaborn Muse goes on. Untap all permanents you control during each other's untap step. That was the one that's in my recycling deck, so I'm going to have to fix that. I'm not going to keep decreasing that deck's power, though. I'm just going to put the tutor that I took out of that deck back into it and probably increase its power some. So it's a solid bracket 3. But you guys haven't seen that deck yet on the channel, so no more spoilers. This card causes you to take what is essentially, while built properly, 3 additional turns worth of effects each turn cycle. It also causes one player to take a disproportionate amount of time in the game. Both of those are fair points. And yes, it was just in the Abzan armor deck, which I just got, which sucks. First, this was finalized a long time ago, before commander brackets existed. Second, I'll use this moment as a reminder that core bracket 2 is on the level of an average modern-day pre-constructed commander deck. But that doesn't mean there can't be some variance there. We are looking at updating the terminology in the future to pull away from the pre-constructed commander decks as a benchmark, as we understand that has caused some confusion. I just want to be clear that we all know about the collision in Tarkir Dragonstorm and want to avoid that seeming like a mixed message. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little upset to see this go on the list right now just because I just got that deck. I don't even think I've played a game with that deck yet. And I wasn't going to change that commander deck at all. And I don't intend to change that commander deck, but the fact that it just gets bumped to an automatic 3 because of one card? That sucks. I still think Bracket 2 should allow one game changer. And I think that would be the simple solution to this. Most pre-constructed commander decks, if they have a game changer, will only have the one. And there's very few that do, but if it's a precon and it's left a precon, I think it should still count as Bracket 2. And I'm going to leave it at that. I don't want to get super heated. Plus, I really want to get through this. Natural Order. As an initial cost to cast a spell, you may sacrifice a green creature, search your library for a green creature, put it onto the battlefield, and then shuffle. Again, this is just a super tutor, but a tutor that lets you put the damn thing onto the field instead of in your hand, that's insane. Definitely should go on the list. Boom. Food Chain. Exile a creature you control, add X mana of any one color, where X is 1 plus the exiled creature's mana value. Spend this mana only to cost creature spells. Okay, so here, I like this, don't get me wrong. The only thing that I would say no to putting this on the list. People tend not to play fairly with Food Chain. It mostly fuels infinite combos. While those are kept out of the first two brackets, it still feels worth calling out and limiting as a game changer slot for bracket 3. I don't personally know how this infinitely combos. If you do, I'd love to hear it in the comments. What I was going to say is the thing that I think makes this unfair is the fact that it's X plus 1, which means I can exile all of my tokens and get a ton of mana, and then use that mana to do whatever I want. If this was not able to be used on tokens, I think this would be a really fair card. But the fact that you can use this on, say, my army of squirrel tokens that I recently built, that's not cool. So definitely on the list. Aura Shards. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may destroy target artifact or enchantment. While it's important to have limiters on artifacts and enchantments in games of Commander, some cards can go overboard. Yeah, okay, I can see how that can go overboard. I'm going to just continue on. Oh, wait, what's this part about Vandalblast? Especially since it's in a color pair full of putting creatures onto the board. That is true. While a one-shot sweeper like Vandalblast is totally reasonable, the persistent effect on the game is something we wanted to hit. I agree. Field of the Dead. Enters the battlefield tapped, add colorless. Whenever Field of the Dead or another land enters the battlefield under your control, if you control 7 or more lands with different names, create a 2/2 black. Aww, that's sad. It takes so little for a land to be strong. Though it only makes colorless mana and enters tapped, getting Field of the Dead online is incredibly easy. Once you do that, with fetch lands, additional land drops, and more, this land can churn out 3 or more zombie tokens a turn. I suppose that's true if you're doing a land drop deck. Yeah, okay. I'm going to admit that. I want to see how this ends up. I don't think that needed to go on. And finally, Mishra's Workshop. Tap to add 3 colorless mana to your mana pool. This mana can only be used to cast artifacts. Not the card I thought it was. Though not highly played due to its difficulty to acquire, a land that taps for 3 mana for artifacts definitely meets some of the restrictions. Yeah, okay, that seems fair. I don't really know if I want to get into this part. Yeah, no, I'm not going to get into this part. That's too much. I'm going to leave it there. I'm not going to get into what they were saying about the rest of the cards that they didn't take off the list. I think this video's gone on long enough. I'm just going to open this last pack and get us the heck out of here before my dad gets home and pitches a fit of some kind. Alright, here we go. Come on, Tarkir. Give us something to compete with the rest of these. Can we pull another, you know what I'd love to see? Just for you guys, is while I'm talking, me pull a fetch land, so you can see me actually get really excited about. Also, for me to pull a fetch land when I know what a fetch land is. Alright, here we go. Oh, art card first, sorry. Ooh, the art card's really pretty. I'm going to take that as a sign of good luck. Alright. Shark Hands Resolve. Target creature gets +3/+3 until end of turn, or destroy target creature with flying. For 2, no. I'm going to say no, that's not super great. Agent of Codus. It's a 2/1. You can exile this for its renew cost, which is 3 and a blue, to put 2 +1/+1 counters on target creature. No. Dragonback Lancer. Flying. Mobilize 1. Ooh, shit. A creature with flying and mobilize? That's pretty stacked. That could be going to the top. It's taking the top spot for now, at least. Jeskai Devotee. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, this creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. So basically, it's like, what's that damn mechanic called? Shoot. I can see it in my head. Prowess. It's like Prowess, except it's only your second spell. And you can pay 1 to filter lands for it. Not bad. Dragon's Prey. This spell costs 2 more to cast if it targets a dragon. Destroy target creature. It costs more to cast if it targets a dragon? That's messed up, but okay. Aggressive Negotiations. We saw that in a previous pack. It's not bad. Sibsig Appraiser. Ooh, nice. Zombie. Whenever this creature enters, look at the top 2 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand and the other in your graveyard. Decent. Quarry Mountain Stalwart. Flurry. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, this creature deals 2 damage to each opponent and you gain 2 life. Nope, I think the Lancer's still better. Abzan Monument. When it enters, search your library for a basic plain, swamp, or forest, reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle. Pay 1 in Abzan, tap this, target, sacrifice this, create an XX white spirit creature token, where X is the greatest toughness among creatures. Ooh, I like that a lot. For my spirit deck, that's going to be a good land. Krumar Initiate. Pay X in black, tap this, pay X life, this creature endures X. So it gets X +1/+1 counters, or you get to create an XX white spirit creature token. If that creature token flew, I would put this up top. But for now, I'm going to say the Lancer still has this. Wingblade Disciple. Flying. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, create a 1/1 bird token. Again, I love the fact that it's a bird token. I might actually put one of these into my bird deck. One of these copies into my bird deck for sure, but it's not going to beat the other one. The Mobilize effect's just too good. Ooh, legendary creature. Tursa Light Shatter. Haste. When it enters, discard up to 2 cards, then draw that many cards. Dece. When it attacks, if there are 7 or more cards in your graveyard, exile a card at random from your graveyard. You may play that... Ooh, I like that a lot. That's really cool. That just took over top spot. Worthy Cost. As an additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice a creature to exile a creature or planeswalker. For 1, that's a great instant. Nope, sorcery. Okay, well, less good then. Tursa is still winning, and a mountain. Tursa wins it. Tursa is definitely the best card in that pack. Alright, we are at the end of the video. We have our 5 cards here that are the top dogs of their respective packs. I know I'm a little biased. I do love my Gandalf. But I think top pull of the day has to go to this land. I think this land is insane. The fact that you can make your next spell uncounterable just by paying 1 blue and tapping this. I'm surprised this won't get banned in the near future, to be honest. I wouldn't be surprised if this gets banned in the near future. And I think that's a great way to end this video. Because banning cards sucks. Overall. But I understand why we do it, and I support the committee that does it. Alright. And on a shot of the pug. Much love to you all from you. Take care. Thank you for sticking with this long-ass video. And thank you for listening to my opinions on the Commander bans, and bye!